A company just told the world's freelancers that artificial intelligence is not coming for their jobs. It is already deciding which jobs get to exist. Upwork's stock has been cut roughly in half in 2026 alone, and the company just responded by rebuilding itself from the inside out, live in public, while 38% of America's skilled workforce watches to see if the platform that made freelancing mainstream can survive the thing it helped create. Here's the number that explains why any of this matters. Over 1 in 3 skilled US knowledge workers now freelance, up from roughly 1 in 4 just a year earlier. That is not a slow migration. That is a structural break in how American work happens, and it happened in 12 months. At the same time, 58% of full-time employees now say they are considering freelancing themselves, up from 36% the year before. Millions of people are quietly deciding the traditional job is no longer the safe bet. The freelance economy isn't a side hustle anymore, it's becoming the main event. To understand how strange that shift really is, you have to remember what freelancing used to mean. For most of the last 2 decades, freelancing was the fallback, the thing people did between real jobs, the thing parents worried about when their kids mentioned it at dinner. It was seen as unstable, unpredictable, a career choice you made when nothing more permanent was available. That perception is now collapsing under its own weight. When more than 1/3 of skilled American professionals are choosing this path deliberately, freelancing stops being the exception to the career story. It becomes the story. But here's where the story turns dark, because the same wave that's pulling people toward freelancing is also splitting that market in two. Upwork's own data shows freelancers performing AI-related work earning 34% more per hour than those who don't touch it at all. On the surface, that sounds like a rising tide. It isn't. Generative AI and creative production work saw contract volume jump 90% year over year, while per contract earnings for that exact work fell 13% in the same window. Translate that. More people are chasing AI gigs than ever before, and the pay per job is shrinking under the weight of all that competition. Meanwhile, complex, judgment-heavy AI work is going the opposite direction. Freelancers tackling complex, high-level AI tasks saw their earnings jump 45% year over year, and AI-augmented professional services grew 72% in volume, with hourly earnings up 22%. 2 freelancers doing work that both technically involves AI are now living in completely different economies. One is getting squeezed towards zero. The other is getting paid like a specialist. Stanford economist Nick Bloom, who advises Upwork's research arm, put his finger on the real puzzle sitting underneath this data. Adoption of AI is everywhere now, he's noted, but the productivity gains from it are still stubbornly hard to see across most companies. What Upwork's numbers add to that puzzle is the missing piece. The value isn't spreading evenly across every AI task. It's pooling in the hands of people applying real expertise, real judgment, and real business context on top of the tools, while the people just executing prompts get left behind in the flood. Upwork gave this new tier of worker a name. They're calling it the AI orchestrator, someone who doesn't just generate text or code, but directs multiple AI systems at once, layering deep domain knowledge on top, and turning all of that into an outcome a client actually wants. That's the emerging job title in this economy. Not AI user, orchestrator, conductor, the person who knows which tool to point where and knows enough to catch it when the tool is wrong. Now here's the part that turns this from a research report into a genuine earthquake inside the company itself. While Upwork was publishing all of this, Upwork was also bleeding. In May 2026, the company reported quarterly revenue of $195 million, cut its own guidance for the rest of the year, and announced it was slashing roughly a quarter of its own workforce, with restructuring charges running as high as $23 million. The stock dropped nearly 20% in a single day on that news alone. Investors weren't punishing a bad quarter. They were pricing in a fear that the entire business model underneath Upwork might be dissolving in real time, that AI agents could simply start doing the small, cheap freelance jobs that used to be the platform's bread and butter, with no human and no commission required at all. That fear didn't come from nowhere. Earlier in the year, Upwork had already reworked its own fee structure, moving away from a flat rate and toward a variable model that shifts based on how much a freelancer earns from a given client over time. On paper, it was meant to reward loyalty and long-term relationships. In practice, plenty of freelancers on the platform felt it as another cost squeezing an already thinning margin, right at the exact moment AI tools were making some of their own work easier to replace outright. When a platform cuts its own workforce and adjusts what it charges the workers who generate its revenue in the same stretch of months, that's not two unrelated headlines. That's a company under real pressure from more than one direction at once. By July, one Wall Street analyst had gone further, downgrading the stock to a flat-out sell, calling what's happening to Upwork an existential threat, arguing that AI agents are rapidly displacing exactly the kind of low-value freelance work the platform was built on top of. The stock has fallen somewhere between 50 and 58% since the start of 2026. Investors who put $1,000 into this company 5 years ago would be sitting on a fraction of that today. But not everyone agrees the panic is justified. Other analysts call this an overreaction, pointing out that Upwork is still profitable, still generating strong free cash flow, still sitting on a clean balance sheet, at a valuation that looks distressed rather than earned. The company backed that confidence with real moves, not just talk, securing a new revolving credit facility of up to $150 million in June to fund working capital, product development, and potential acquisitions. It also expanded a 15-year partnership with the payments company Payoneer, exploring stablecoin-based payouts for freelancers working from emerging markets, a signal that Upwork is still thinking in decades, not quarters, even while the stock chart says otherwise. That's the fight happening inside every research note about this company right now. Is Upwork a business getting quietly erased by the technology it helped its own users adopt? Or is it a business getting unfairly punished for a fear that hasn't actually shown up in its cash flow yet? Upwork's answer to that question landed on June 17th, 2026, and it's the boldest move the company has made in years. Instead of trying to keep AI away from its marketplace, Upwork walked straight into the belly of the beast. It launched the Upwork Claude Connector, a tool that lives directly inside Anthropic's Claude, letting a business describe a project in plain language and immediately get matched against Upwork's pool of more than 18 million professionals without ever opening a browser tab. A person planning a project inside an AI assistant can now hire a human being to finish it, in the same conversation without losing the context they already built. Upwork's own research found that 74% of small and mid-sized businesses plan to increase freelancer hiring specifically because of AI-driven initiatives. Upwork didn't wait for that shift to threaten it from the outside. It planted its own flag inside the AI tool itself. Think about what that bet actually says. Upwork isn't positioning itself as the alternative to artificial intelligence anymore. It's positioning itself as the thing that shows up the moment artificial intelligence hits its own limit. The moment a chatbot can plan a project but cannot actually execute the parts that require judgment, taste, or accountability. Chief Business Officer Peter Sanborn framed the whole strategy in one line. AI is changing how work gets planned, he said. but quality outcomes still depend on human expertise. That sentence is either Upwork's saving grace or its last stand, depending on which analyst you ask. So step back and look at the whole board. A workforce freelancing at record levels, a pay gap widening between orchestrators and executors inside the exact same AI economy, a stock price cut in half by fear, a company slashing a quarter of its own staff, reworking its own fees, and simultaneously wiring itself directly into the AI tools everyone assumed would replace it. This isn't a company having one bad quarter. This is a live experiment in whether a marketplace built for human freelancers can survive by becoming the thing artificial intelligence reaches for when it needs a human being to finish the job. Here's the uncomfortable truth sitting at the center of all of it. Every freelancer watching this story is being sorted right now, whether they realize it or not, into one of two futures. One where their skills compound alongside the machines and their rate climbs 45% a year. And one where the machines quietly absorb their task list, 1 gig at a time, until the rate they can charge collapses toward nothing. Upwork didn't create that split. It just built the platform where you can watch it happen in real time, one contract at a time, one price cut at a time. There's a broader signal buried in this too, one that reaches past Upwork entirely. For years, the assumption was that I would simply replace freelancers wholesale, that the platform itself would become obsolete the moment machines could execute tasks directly. What's actually happening is stranger and more specific than that. The platform isn't dying, it's sorting. It's rewarding the freelancers who learn to direct AI and quietly starving out the ones who only learn to obey it. That distinction, orchestrator versus executor, might end up being the defining career line of this entire decade, and most people crossing it right now don't even know which side they landed on. So here's the question worth sitting with. Is the freelance economy actually growing, or is it just relabeling the same work at a lower price while a smaller group of specialists absorbs all the real gains? Drop your take in the comments. Tell me which side of this split you're standing on, and subscribe to the channel and like the video. There's a lot more coming.